Florida to remove all vaccine mandates in the state.
Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. set to face lawmakers for the first time since CDC Director Susan Mernarez' firing after she refused to go along with his changes to COVID vaccine policy. With the CDC in turmoil, there's new fallout this morning after Florida's move to end vaccine mandates, including those for school children.
The Florida Department of Health, in partnership with the governor, is going to be working to end all vaccine mandates in Florida law. All of them. All of them.
Florida Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo has long been criticized by health experts for spreading vaccine misinformation.
Who am I to tell you what your child should put in your body? Your body is a gift from God.
The move would make the Sunshine State the first to no longer mandate certain vaccines for children in public schools, currently required to be vaccinated against serious diseases like polio, measles, chickenpox, and tetanus. The American Medical Association condemning the move, saying in a statement, this unprecedented rollback would undermine decades of public health progress. While there is still time, we urge Florida to
This is one of those things where like obviously a lot of the anti-vaxxer stuff is supposed to be used as a distraction, right? Like it's supposed to be culture warriors. It's supposed to keep people busy so that they just realize that, you know, the cost of living and affordability crisis is still ongoing. But you're too busy to recognize that Trump is not doing shit about that. Okay. But the problem with this is like when you actually lean into it, when you actually lean into making decisions about culture war stuff, you are unironically cooking your own future. Like, what good is it if a ton of next generation Floridians just have childhood polio and numerous other diseases that have been eradicated as a consequence of vaccine mandates? It doesn't make sense. This is the problem with moving in the direction of having like true believers rather than simple grifters that are going to agitate in the direction of this kind of stuff, but never actually fulfill the desires of some of the most insane people in the base. Another example I can present to you is white nativist anti-immigrant agendas, right? Like if Donald Trump were to do the Guatemalan Mexican Holocaust in this country with like 12 million brown people being shipped away into concentration camps, many of which work in the agricultural business, the poultry business, many of them work in the construction business. Like it would not only be unimaginably cruel, but it would also destroy the American economy. Okay? Obviously, first and foremost, that is like an insane thing to do. That is an incredibly cruel thing to do. But it would also be a self-own. It would be an own goal. You would be killing the economy, right? This feels like that. This feels like a move in the direction of actively cooking your own future. It doesn't make any sense.
Consider this change to help prevent a rise of infectious disease outbreaks that put health and lives at risk. Measles cases have already risen nationwide to their highest level in 25 years, and the decision has medical experts ringing the alarm.
In the 1970s, there were school vaccine mandates across the country, but they weren't enforced. And then you had these major outbreaks of tens of thousands of people, children who had measles. And with those enforcement of school vaccine mandates, you ended those outbreaks.
Now, as the nation's top health agencies face a crisis of confidence, California, Oregon, and Washington are joining together to launch a new West Coast Health Alliance, quote, to ensure residents remain protected by science, not politics. Multiple reports saying Kennedy has chosen 7 new members to join the agency's panel of vaccine experts, and at least 3 of those reported new members have been critical of vaccines. HHS telling ABC News, you will hear it from us when there are new members to announce.
These changes were absolutely.
And while all this is happening, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy is defending the shakeup at the CDC in a Senate hearing and saying that it was absolutely a necessity. As you guys may or may not be aware of course, the former head of the CDC was fired, and then a bunch of people actually left, resigned in protest. And now you got a bunch of senators asking questions about, like, what the hell is going on? Meanwhile, the person that they're putting in charge is a psychopath, is another Peter Thiel acolyte.
necessary adjustments to restore the agency to its role as the world's gold standard public health agency with the central mission of protecting Americans from infectious disease. CDC failed that responsibility miserably during COVID, when its disastrous and nonsensical policies destroyed small businesses, violated civil liberties, closed our schools, caused generational damage in doing so, masked infants with no science, and heightened economic inequality. And yet all those oppressive and unscientific interventions failed to do anything about the disease itself. America is home to 4.2% of the world's population, yet we had nearly 20% of the COVID deaths. We literally did worse than any country in the world. And the people at CDC who oversaw that process, who put masks on our children, who closed our schools, are the people who will be leaving. And that's why we need bold, competent, and creative new leadership at CDC. People able and willing to chart a new course. As my father once said, progress is a nice word, but change is its motivator, and change has its enemies. That's why we need new blood at CDC. That's also why it's imperative.
Dude. I mean, this is like Hideo Kojima levels of disease, man. Okay, this is like a Hideo Kojima boss. Okay, in the Metal Gear series called Disease Man, being like, "That's right, I'm one of the 4 horsemen. I'm here to bring about disease. It'll be your salvation. Millions must die. Children must get polio. It will only make them stronger." And people are just looking at this and going, "Nah, that's my guy, dude." It's crazy. Like, he is seen as like a popular person. He is seen as a popular figure in this administration. How nutty. What the fuck, bro? Talking about like quarantining and mass didn't mitigate infection rates and deaths. Yeah, it's over. Like the COVID stuff, like the COVID stuff totally bricked people. It totally bricked people. There are so many people that just like straight up think it's like both fake, but it was also a bioweapon, and the vaccines were worse, and the mask mandates were completely ridiculous because it was fake, even though it killed people because it was a bioweapon. Like it is so inconsistent. It doesn't make any sense, but it does not matter. There are people who just their brains are completely busted on this, okay? And here is Holy Toledo himself. Support for vaccinating kids against infectious diseases dropped from 81% in 1991 to 51% last year.
This has to do with Florida, where they're trying to overturn all vaccine mandates, including vaccine mandates.
It's so funny because vaccine hesitancy has been deployed as a weapon for political instability overseas, or has been an unfortunate byproduct of like American intervention overseas. And we're doing it to ourselves. We are doing it to ourselves. It's just pretty funny to think about, like, it's pretty funny to think about like America cooking its own future like this. A plague upon our own homes.
In school for children. What do the polls tell us about that?
Okay, this to me is one of the most interesting and, in my opinion, most troubling trend lines that we have seen. Okay, vax kids against infectious diseases, the government should require it. You go back to 1991, it was 81%, okay?
1991, Holy Toledo.
Then we go to 2019 at 62%. Look at where that number fell to by 2024. It was just 51%. That is a 30-point drop from 34 years ago. My goodness gracious, now a bare majority say that the government should in fact require kids to be vaccinated against infectious diseases. Amongst Republicans, it's the opposite. The majority say the government shouldn't require it. Now, I should point out this does depend a little bit on question wording. The polling out this morning says that the government should encourage it, but encourage it is very different from requiring it. And when it comes to requiring it, the American public has become increasingly skeptical of the idea that, in fact, the government should require kids to be vaccinated against infectious diseases.
I mean, what do you say to that? What can you say to that? I always talk about like how if everyone believes the fake thing and it is a part of the collective understanding, then what use is there for the truth? Like, what use is there to try and advocate for social welfare in some degree when people are just saying like, nah, that's not for me. Social welfare, vaccines, that's gonna make me gay and autistic. Don't want it, brother. Like, what do you do? It's kind of like that quote, to be well adjusted to a objectively insane society, to an objectively unhealthy society is no measure of mental sanity. It's cooked.
That we remove officials with conflicts of interest and catastrophically bad judgment and political agendas. We need unbiased, politics-free, transparent, evidence-based science in the public interest. Those are the guiding principles behind the changes at the CDC, and that is what you can expect all across.
Are you sponsored by Pfizer? Hell yeah, brother. I love Big Pharma. I'm sponsored by Pfizer. No, man, I just think vaccines are good, okay? I think it's important. It's important to vaccinate because I'm not a psycho, because I'm not a caveman, okay? I don't know how else to describe it. I'm pro-vaccine, okay? You got me. I always have been. I am pro-modern medicine, okay? It is the reason why we live till the age of 70, okay? The reason why the average life expectancy has shot up, even though America, it's going down quite a bit, to like 70 plus, is directly a consequence of vaccines and modern medicine. That's it. Because the life expectancy, it doesn't mean that like people just like always automatically died at the age of like 30 or whatever back in the day. Modern medicine and specifically vaccines made it so that like these incredibly unfortunate childhood deaths due to preventable diseases that are now preventable because of vaccines, no longer cook people, no longer kill children, which is the reason why the life expectancy was significantly lower back in the day. I cannot believe we are still having like a debate about this too. It's one of those things where it's one of those things that I never really imagined we would be debating in 2025. If you were to tell me 10 years ago that like Americans would be sincerely discussing how bad vaccines are, I don't think that I would ever see the day.